We should do that every time.
I'm not sure why it showed up like that, but it made it a lot of fun, so I'm glad it did. Hey, everyone. Welcome to another LP Movie Club. We are going to be talking about, if I can find the right banner, there we go, Marvel's Shang-Chi and the Legend of the Ten Rings.
Wait, is it Sean or is it Shang?
Yes.
Sean? Sorry.
I am Mac. We've got Jeremiah. Look, I figured out the pointing thing. It only took me 2 years. Cole, and then we've got Kyle and Becca down here.
Hi.
So it's cool that we have like a bigger group today. This feels like the biggest event movie that we've done since we started the movie club, right? Like
getting a movie theater.
Right. Yeah. We all saw this in a theater within the last, few weeks. But a new addition to the Marvel Cinematic Universe, not counting Black Widow, which hit Disney Plus, of course. But yeah, so it was really exciting and felt like something special. I want to, before we dive into everything, I want to get everyone's sort of first thoughts. Like, how do they feel about this movie? Jeremiah?
I walked in expecting it to be good, but it was really good. Like, this is definitely bringing, and I think the delay of everything prior Black Widow kind of made us fall out of the, Marvel does everything amazing in the theater. And then we saw this, and it can't be better.
I like it. Kyle or Becca?
Well, my first thought during the movie was I want an overlay of Pandora with that world.
So,
like, you could ride a dragon instead of a banshee. It's like the same thing. But no, I really enjoyed it. I liked the humor that we love about Marvel was all there. I thought some of the fight settings and choreography were really good and interesting. So I definitely enjoyed myself. And there were still surprises, even if I had inklings of things, there were still surprises.
I'm anxious to see it again. And I'm so glad I got to see it in theaters, but I kind of wish it was on Disney Plus because I'm definitely ready for a rewatch. And I haven't rewatched Black Widow. So let's just put it that way.
Cole, what about you?
Yeah, I would say I very much enjoyed it till the last 20 minutes, but we could talk about that later. That's when it lost me. But the first, hour, 40 minutes, I really enjoyed.
You know what? I don't completely disagree with Cole, to be honest. Like it did take some turns that I wasn't expecting, and it got a little strange for me. But with a superhero movie, you expect some turns like that here and there, and I agree with everybody here. I really, really enjoyed this movie. I think looking at the whole MCU, it kind of falls maybe middle of the pack to upper tier slightly. But I'm not quite in agreement with Doobie here. It's best movie of the MCU. But it was good. It was really, really good. And I really enjoyed the movie for what it was, but also what it represents. And so that was it was nice, a nice addition to the MCU for sure. So one of the things this movie accomplishes is correcting one of the biggest MCU mistakes, which was the horrible butchering of the character of the Mandarin, it was really nice to get that sort of fixed, even though they didn't entirely. So we got Wenwu, the Mandarin, as the father of Shang-Chi. They don't call him the Mandarin in this movie, I should point out. Oh, by the way, we should also say now, spoilers.
Yeah.
If you haven't seen the movie yet, go watch this, come back and enjoy, our conversation after having seen the movie, because otherwise we're going to ruin it for you. But yeah, and here you got Doobie pointing out, yes, it did fix Iron Man 3, where we had that terrible version of the Mandarin. and now we got sort of a combined character between the Mandarin and Shang-Chi's father in the comics, kind of pushed into one character here. So it wasn't exactly right, but a lot better than what we had previously.
It wasn't just two white guys? What?
Right. Yeah. No, they did things a little bit differently, a little bit more accurate to the comics. Did this feel like more of the same from Marvel to you, or did it feel completely different? Because I think there are aspects of it, obviously, that are the same. It is a superhero movie. It follows that same sort of origin kind of story, but at the same time, very, very different.
Mm-hmm.
Well, you had to read for the first 15 minutes, so that was different.
I loved it. I loved that. I was like, this is such a bold move. I'm all in on it.
Yeah, I agree with Cole. It did, for me, it did feel different. I had to remind myself a couple times that I'm like, no, this is a Marvel movie. You're watching a superhero film. Because, yeah, it had that, I don't know, the martial arts was not something that we've seen, hand-to-hand combat and in other films, in other Marvel films, but this was very different.
See, I'm actually, I don't know if Mac's going to feel this way, but I kind of feel that this question was set up for him. It almost follows the pattern a little too closely of the Marvel movies. I mean, yes, the martial arts was something different, and yes, the opening was different, but it is still the fish out of water, finds why he's a fish out of water, goes to X place, kicks butt, and then fights some mystical dragon, alien, that kind of stuff. I'm not saying it's bad, but to me, if you watch Black Panther and this together, you kind of get that same type of feel. Maybe not the exact same beats, but it definitely has that. I mean, the only thing that's missing to make it a Marvel movie was they didn't fight any giant ray that comes out of the sky to put aliens or anything in there. It was a door.
Yeah, I agree with you in one sense. It is sort of that same sort of origin story, like I said, although it's different because the main character knew of his origin story beforehand and was keeping it a secret to himself, as opposed to, the origin sort of unfolding, in front of us, which is like what we typically see. I do want to point out Rebecca's comment here, and she points out that she's not somebody who typically enjoys Marvel. I think all of us here are, typically going out and seeing the new Marvel Cinematic Universe movie. So it's interesting to get this sort of perspective of somebody who doesn't usually do that and see that this movie was still a big hit. But yeah, it does still hit sort of some of those tropes, like, to play off of like the pitch meetings. They have their disposable CGI army is still there. Like there always is in these Avengers movies. But still very different stylistically. As Doobie points out, it's a martial arts film, like a classic kung fu movie, with that sort of style and storytelling and that sort of action and the fight choreography, and then still follows that sort of framework of the Marvel Cinematic Universe as well, which I think they blended that very, very well. I want to talk about the action of this movie. And sort of like Kyle, you mentioned the choreography. Did anything specifically stand out? Was anything surprising?
The fight outside of the building on the scaffolding was probably my favorite one. I'm sure someone could correct me, but I don't remember seeing anything quite like that in one of these fights before, and so it just really stood out to me, and I thought it was a lot of fun and moving pieces.
Rush Hour 2 or 3?
Well, I meant a Marvel movie, but yes.
Sorry.
Skyscraper.
Yeah, it's funny that you mentioned Rush Hour, though, because that was that sort of style that came to mind. And yeah, that I agree, Kyle. That is my favorite one of the fight scenes. But it was really cool to see sort of that close-up hand-to-hand combat that we had between Shang-Chi and the Death Dealer, and that choreography was so great. And those are the exact kind of fight scenes that I love to watch. But then we also got those huge, like big cinematic action scenes, like the whole bus sequence where they're driving through San Francisco and flipping vehicles left and right. And so I really like that they managed to pull all of that together.
For me, the bus sequence reminded me of the Netflix Daredevil fight scenes where it was so close, and like if you blinked, you missed 3 fights going on. So
Yeah.
that was, I loved the outside stuff. I mean, all the fights were amazing, but the one in the bus, especially because we kept seeing the teaser of that, but when in the payoff, I felt that that was done really well.
I was also a bus scene fan. There was multiple times where I would just go, "Whoa!"
Oh, that wasn't just the sound effect happening in the movie when everything slowed down?
No, that was me. I was really loud. That's probably why you heard it.
Right.
Yeah.
I did like when they slowed stuff down and how you had some eye contact between whoever was fighting, and I don't know, it was I know we've seen this in films before, but for me that felt different, and I thought it was a unique way to tell a story.
Yeah, I totally agree. I mean, the all of the action was really incredible. I keep just bringing up the choreography, but I would love to see like behind the scenes and how they brought these scenes to life, because that's, I just need an assembled on this, like we've been getting on the Disney Plus series. Where are our feature film assembled documentaries?
They'll come.
Yeah, I hope so. We never got one on Black Widow, but again, they finished that movie like 3 years ago. So hopefully we get one soon.
Has Black Widow officially come on for free on Disney Plus yet?
No.
I think
don't believe
it's
so.
October.
Yeah, so maybe when that happens,
Yeah,
it'll come.
very possible.
Yeah.
So I want to say there were 2 surprising characters that showed up, but it wasn't really much of a surprise to anyone who saw a trailer well in advance of the movie. But we got a fight scene between Wong and Abomination, and I'm really curious to get your guys' thoughts. What is going on there? Because they have their whole fight, and then they're clearly like there's some sort of friendly relationship between the 2 of them. Any thoughts on what's happening?
I got home and just like, did I miss something about Abomination? That has there been any type of reveal since the Hulk 10 years ago when Abomination appeared?
Right.
And then, but there's nothing other than, he was locked away and then he was freed. I felt that, when we saw Abomination in the trailer, we all kind of went, wow. And we all kind of felt that it was Wong. I don't think that there was ever a clear, it's definitely Wong.
Right.
But yeah, them walking out at the end was, I want to know why they went to New York. Is Abomination just hanging out in the sewers out there? What's going on?
Yeah, maybe he's working at the Sanctum or something. And it is post-snap, so different world. Everybody, you kind of just have to rely on on whoever will take you in, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm really curious if like Doctor Strange is trying to assemble some sort of his own team with the Avengers having, kind of gone their separate ways, and maybe he's preparing for the next, huge cataclysmic event, training Abomination or something. But yeah, I thought that was really interesting. Like it seems like they're setting something up there, and we know Abomination is going to appear in the She-Hulk series, so there is a future for this character. Mm-hmm. I'm not sure how they're piecing that together when we get there, though.
Maybe they met in like a chat room or on Reddit or something, and they're like, "Wait, you like the same thing that I like? You're into this like underground kung fu scene, and then
you like Beyonce also?"
Yeah, exactly. So it's like the one thing that they share that they have to keep a secret from everybody else. No.
I would like to think that they met at a Beyonce concert. That would be fantastic. I do want to get into some of the rest of the cast, and Doobie has started us off here. Can we talk about how wonderful a character Awkwafina is, which Awkwafina is the actress who is playing a character named Katie, so close, and their relationship. I'll start us off here. I'll admit, I've never really been a big fan of Awkwafina. Not that I disliked her, it's just I had never, followed anything really that she worked on. And then leading up to the movie and seeing like the red carpet event and watching her in interviews was like, oh, she's great. And then saw the movie and that just furthered that thought. I thought she was fantastic.
I have liked her for a while. I have always been a big Aquafina fan. From Crazy Rich Asians on, she just kind of like she was the best part of Ocean's 8 too. I've seen a lot of movies that she's in for some reason, but The Farewell was definitely the best one. And it was kind of cool to see some elements of that from like kind of feeling that whole like Asian heritage and like making the most of it and kind of seeing that touch of her with her family there and it kind of carrying throughout. I thought was really interesting because it added a bit more groundedness to her character as opposed to just being that comedic relief. It's like her trying to find herself and find her purpose, basically.
As far as in this movie, I loved how she was kind of like the audience. Like she was able to ask all the questions that we had, but it wasn't weird and it didn't it like everything was used really like her character was written very well and the exposition, I guess, if you will, was used very well. She trusted him, and we trust Marvel. You know that they're going to tell us a good story. So I don't know. I felt like I could put myself, you know, or that Katie was a good catalyst for the audience.
A good catalyst.
Catalyst. There we go.
Hey, Tony's not here. Somebody has to fill that role.
No, they don't.
Kyle, do you have any?
Well, I was just thinking about the actual surprise character in this movie, Trevor St. McGoodbody.
Trevor Slattery, played by Sir Ben Kingsley.
Close.
This was a weird way that they handled this. He wasn't on like the original cast list. He hadn't been doing any press or anything. And then he was at the red carpet event and they were taking cast photos and he was there. And so I was like, oh, I guess Ben Kingsley is in this movie. And sure enough, he played a very large role, reprising that role from Iron Man 3 that, again, they completed that circle of, you know, they realized they messed up and completely corrected it. Going off of the Marvel one-shot, All Hail the King, where he was in prison, and then they continued that story from there. And really, really good call to include Sir Ben Kingsley and that character.
Yeah, he definitely played the best. Like, I loved everything. Aquafina was great, but having him show up, like when he came down the stairs, I didn't pay attention to the red carpet, so I had no clue. But as soon as he started talking, I mean, other than Benji saying that we need a Trevor Disney Plus show, I didn't have a clue.
To me, he felt as if it was basically Tobias Funke's future from Arrested Development. That's what it really felt like.
I can see that.
Yeah, the Planet of the Apes bit was fantastic. He was incredibly funny, and yet added like that other like grounded character that you kind of needed. Like him and Aquafina kind of played like traded off that same role where one of them could be serious and the other one was just there for comic relief, and then they would bounce back and forth. I mean, if we're going to talk about the cast, though, we should probably mention, you know, Simu Liu is just as quickly a star as anyone I can remember. And I think that happened on social media long before this movie ever even came out. When, you know, you go back to years ago when he tweeted at Marvel and said, let's talk about Shang-Chi. And sure enough, he ended up getting casted years after that. Kevin Feige confirmed in an interview that was not why he got casted. He actually had never even seen that tweet before, but that he was casted for his actual acting talent. And seeing that he did a lot of the stunts and stuff like that, a lot of the fight choreography, and that was just really, really cool to see. And I love, you know, having the next big Marvel star, you know, in our sights now.
Yeah, where they go from this is going to be amazing. I don't want to jump ahead, but I feel like the setup is Shang-Chi is going to be, I don't want to say Captain America, but maybe the Thor going forward, where he's somebody will always be part of the conversation of the next phases of Marvel.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah, he's going to be one of those main, you know, core roster type of heroes. I think Thor will be the Thor going forward. I don't think he's going anywhere anytime soon. But yeah, I agree. I think Shang-Chi is definitely going to find himself right in the middle of these big stories playing out. I'm really curious to see because, so, I mean, we're jumping ahead a little bit here, but we end up with him having the 10 rings and it's this impressive weapon. But really, Shang-Chi is a guy. You know, he's a really great fighter. But what good does that do you against like Thanos? You know, so like I'm really curious to see when we're dealing with these big Avengers stories, what role does he have to play, and you know, where they go with that? Do we have any thoughts on what they can do to kind of beef up Shang-Chi in these crossover movies?
Well, I think the 10 rings alone steps up. Like, you know, yes, he doesn't have the superhuman strength like Captain America does, but it's, you know, it's a man with a shield. This is a man with rings that he can jump and fight dragons with. So,
yeah, I agree. I feel like
rings, sorry.
I just feel like the rings, yeah,
were kind of unclear. But sorry, Cole, go ahead.
I was just saying, I feel like they purposely gave him the ring so he didn't become like another Hawkeye. You know, like he didn't become just a guy who has kind of very good kung fu skills. They gave him the rings, which are not something he like generally has, to basically beef him up and make him, I guess, a more powerful Avenger in that regard.
Yeah, so we alluded to it a little bit earlier about that sort of turn that this movie takes, like Cole mentioned, the last 20 minutes or so. I guess we've kind of, you know, come to realize that nobody was expecting that sort of thing. Really, like were you expecting a big? I mean, we saw a dragon in the trailer, and yet a big kaiju fight at the end of this movie was not on my radar.
That was getting Game of Thrones vibes.
I'll start. I did not like it because to me, the whole point of this movie is dealing with grief and like, how does your family deal with the loss of a loved one? And it just would have felt a lot more powerful if the movie just ended with him kind of taking on his dad and basically trying to help his dad see the error of his ways. That I felt like throwing in this big fight against these monsters at the end kind of really took away from that. Like, it didn't feel like it served any purpose in anyone's character journey that they had kind of really carefully put together to make it different than your typical Marvel fare. So then adding in this giant fight at the end, it just was like, oh, I guess we're back to it being like a typical Marvel movie. But I liked that they were doing something so different and like dealing with this big thing, like this powerful thing of grief, and how does one overcome the loss of their mother or the loss of their wife and stuff like that.
Does anybody want to take the other side of that? Because I actually kind of agree with Cole there.
See, I agree, but they also do a good job of making it the Marvel twist. There is still the payoff. He figures out why his dad's, you know, going crazy. Again, Marvel twist. But throwing in the monsters that's what makes it Marvel. They can't just have the basic storyline of dad and son fight each other and it's over. That was more of the Netflix Marvel, like where it was based more on Earth. This is the MCU where things have to be to the nth degree and go well beyond what we expect.
Yeah, being a big comic fan, those are the kind of stories I love. Those grounded stories that aren't these huge monster fights and are much more character based, and you know, stories like Civil War and you know, just other like very intimate stories like that. Anything with like Moon Knight, stuff like that. Those are the kind of stories I like, but it is difficult to give us those kind of stories on a grand stage of the MCU where we're coming off of Avengers Endgame, where you just had this absolutely massive, you know, eruption of characters and action. And it's hard to follow that up for a more general audience and give us something so contained as to like that father and son story and this family dealing with grief, which I loved. I absolutely loved. And I do wish they could have kept it that small, but I feel like, a more general audience would have been disappointed by that. I do like that this avenue allowed them to give the redemption arc for Wenwu, even if it was only a few seconds. He redeems himself in the last few moments of his life, which was, that sort of full circle that you wanted. Mm-hmm. But my bigger problem with it was how they defeated the dragon. That Awkwafina's character shot an arrow from seemingly a mile away and hit it directly in the throat. Does this completely render Hawkeye irrelevant at this point, or what's going on?
It's a big throat.
It's a. I'll give you that. It's a big throat. But she also just learned how to shoot a bow and arrow yesterday.
Yeah, so. that whole sequence, like, I want to know where they're going with this and why Awkwafina gets pulled in by Wong. Again, spoilers at the end. Like, you two, come along. Is this Doc bringing Marty and Jennifer into the future just because she's there? What's going on with this?
We need to talk about your children.
Yes.
Yeah. Go ahead, Cole.
For me, it just felt like we went from the stakes where, oh, he's going to burn down my mom's village to the world is ending in about 3 seconds with no warning. So I wish that was at least like a plot line through the movie instead of, oh, now the whole world's going to end because there's this soul-eating monster. Like, where did that come from?
Well, they referenced that. Yeah,
that's kind of what I'm talking about with the stakes that have been set in the MCU. It's hard to just do it like, if this village were to burn down, like, sorry, but the general audience isn't really going to care. They would just go to the next Marvel movie that's set in a different place. There has to be that bigger threat for people to really become invested in it, given the 23, 24 previous movies that have set the bar already.
Are we going to see Katie in Hawkeye? Because we know he's working with Kate Bishop, so maybe she could learn from him too.
Yeah, do you think the people working on Hawkeye are just like, well, we have an archer named Kate. What are you guys doing? Kind of stole our thunder there. Jeremiah mentioned the post credit quickly, where Wong pulls Shang-Chi and Katie, who is, I guess, along for the ride. We'll see how far that goes. Into the world of the Avengers. It was very symbolic in watching them step through that portal and, like, I mean, literally stepping into the bigger universe and seeing that play out. Any thoughts on that post-credit scene? I mean, there were some other characters there.
So I this is one of the things that everybody I've talked to just kind of bypass this thought, and then I'll say it to them like, oh, that's right. So it's Bruce Banner. It's not Hulk Banner. It's not Hulk. It's Bruce as himself. So
with the broken arm still.
Yeah, where are we going to get that story? That's what I want. And also, finally, she decided to grow her hair out again.
Right? How long has it been? Because that's pretty fast.
Yeah.
Depending on when it is after Endgame.
Yeah, her hair is back, but his arm's still broken. So I'm not sure where we are in the timeline.
Maybe it's part of her powers. Maybe she can just change her hair.
She can change the colors of the costume, right? So maybe the hair too.
But yeah, what is what's? I guess it would be significant, but why was it Bruce Banner?
I don't know. I'll say though, I when I saw this movie, I was able to tweet my 140 character reaction, 280, whatever the number is at this point. And so I did say that Shang-Chi changed at least one big thing in the Marvel Cinematic Universe. The Hulk was what I was referring to.
Very nice.
Well, they couldn't have two green guys. They already had the Abomination. So
it's too much.
Gray Hulk. That's all I'm saying. They could have gone Gray Hulk, but
well, maybe they will. I mean, he's not done being the Hulk. He's going to transform again. So maybe they go a different direction like that.
maybe he just became really calm. Like, he didn't even care that he didn't have Captain Marvel's number. So, like, at that point, he's just so calmed down that he's good to go again.
And that was actually the mid-credit scene. So we can also talk about the end credit scene, the post.
Oh yeah.
Scene.
Well,
I wanted to go off of that and just ask, this was him Shang-Chi stepping into the bigger universe. What do we think is gonna be next for him? How do they bring him into the Avengers? I mean, we don't know. We have so many Marvel movies on the slate already. Not one of them is Avengers. We don't know when the next big event is coming. Mm-hmm. Do we have any thoughts as to how he becomes a part of this bigger universe?
I want to know. I mean, I'm not too familiar with the 10 rings as the weapons that they are, and they investigate them. Do we have any type of comic information about these weapons?
They're already so different. I mean, in the comics, the Mandarin wears 10 rings, like literally rings on his fingers. So already, and each one controls like a different type of magic. So it's just a completely different type of weapon there. I did think it was really interesting that they were trying to piece together. Wong was saying like they're not mystical. Bruce couldn't explain by any sort of science, and
they are Chitauri, yeah.
Right, they're not. Yeah, Carol was confirming they're not, alien in nature. So, really interesting what sort of story they're laying out for the 10 rings here.
Yeah, what they were saying about like being able to see the signatures, kind of what it reminded me a little bit of in the Eternals trailer, where they're talking about the snap and the energy, them being able to see that. Mm-hmm. So I was thinking some sort of connection between the Infinity Stones and the 10 rings, or whatever energy, whatever it's giving off, that they're able to see. And maybe that'll be like the next thing that they're seeking, is all these reactions more than they are stones.
Yeah, and I would have thought it would have been some sort of cosmic energy, tying to the Celestials and sort of going that direction for the MCU going forward. I feel like Carol kind of closed the door on that, but maybe it's just something she's not aware of. I don't know. We'll have to see where they go with that.
Well, she also had to take a call from Kamala, so.
That's true. Yeah, she's also she's got some other things on her plate.
It might have been Monica. We don't know.
That's true. It could have been. There's so many Marvels. Speaking of the 10 rings, though, but this time talking about the group, the 10 rings, the post-credit scene that Kyle mentioned, we got to see Xialing, Shang-Chi's sister, taking the mantle of her father and taking over the group. This was when I saw the mid-credit scene, I was like, okay, but what's next for these characters? What's going to happen here? And I saw where they started with this post-credit, and I immediately was just like, yes, this is exactly what I wanted. Her taking up the mantle and leading the 10 rings. Was this something you guys saw coming at all? Are you excited to see where this goes?
Yes.
I like that half of them were wearing masks. I'm like, hey, MASH.
I feel like it would make a lot of sense to tie that into the Florence Pugh project coming up. I feel like you almost have your like battle of all female armies against each other in a way. I think would be a kind of interesting way to see, like an interesting way to bring in two female-led groups and have it like as kind of this power struggle of who is going to kind of maintain dominance over everyone. And are they good? Are they bad? They have kind of similar ties to them.
But the 10 rings was guys and girls.
That's true. There were some guys there. I forgot.
Female-led at this point. At
least. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, I think that was just her way of, she didn't get to train with them. So now she's going to work on empowering the next generation, but she's not going to be completely exclusive.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was strange to see, we're used to the main hero being in the will return, but no, the 10 rings will return. Like, where is that going to go is what I really want to know. I mean, yes, Shang-Chi, everything, I have a feeling we'll probably see a little bit of that in the Eternals, if not in just the post-credit. But the 10 rings isn't, again, we're kind of connecting the Netflix more ground-based characters compared to the Avengers type characters. So this will be interesting to see how this plays out in the future. Could we see more on the Disney Plus side or something in a future film?
The more I think about it, it really almost is the exact same undercover like ops group as in Black Widow. Like when you really think about the similarities, they are basically the same group. Just one is all male, the other is all female.
Well, it's funny you mentioned that too, because my comparison is to another very similar group. If you have watched the Netflix Marvel series, there was the whole crossover event really dealt with a group called the Hand, which is a group of ninjas, an ancient group.
No, that's the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, I thought.
That's what I was thinking. I was going to say the Foot Clan, so I knew you were going to say the Hand just because.
Right, very close. Same thing. They just
it's a parody, actually. The Foot Clan is a parody of the Hands.
Right, and Daredevil's origin story is connected to the Ninja Turtles, but we don't have to go down that road.
Why don't we own that? Yeah.
Very similar to the Ten Rings, and I'm really curious to know, with this happening in the MCU now, is it going to be too repetitive to introduce the Hand? Where there's a lot of people anticipating Daredevil showing up in the MCU fairly soon, and yes, like Jeremiah, I'm definitely hoping for that to be true. But the Hand is a huge part of that character's history. And I'm wondering, are they going to look at that? Marvel makes some changes from the comics for a more, like I said, a more general audience. Mm-hmm. And I think I could see that being too repetitive, and maybe the Ten Rings just becomes the MCU version of the Hand going forward.
Well, it could definitely be. I mean, this is crossing over to the deep nerdum. Ten Rings takes over the Hand. We can only hope that Kevin and the whole Netflix versus MCU universe works itself out somehow, and then I could see them bringing in the Hand into the Ten Rings, or taking over the business. The street level stuff versus the big stuff, we're going to start to see those kind of play out, because the characters, we can't have everything be massive. Especially with Ms. Marvel, if she comes around, she was much more street level. America is street level. So it'll be good to see the kind of evening out, but if we will see those two universes collide will be the big thing.
Yeah, you get to see Shang-Chi and Iron Fist together.
Oh.
I
Shang-Chi just walks up and punches him in the face.
You joke, but I do really hope that happens, just not the Iron Fist we've already had. Maybe you start completely new with that one. So yeah, I totally agree. I could see, them going a lot of different directions. I think Disney Plus will probably be the place to go for those more grounded stories, those ones that aren't so huge in scope. That could be a way that they play it. I want to go around and ask you guys, we're talking about Shang-Chi, becoming a part of the bigger universe. What's one character in the MCU you want to see Shang-Chi interact with?
You should have given us more time.
I can start us off, but I feel like it's going to be one that you already have in mind.
It's so easy. Spider-Man.
Yeah,
those two hanging out, him and Peter hanging out would be great. Because they're, Peter's 17 and Shang-Chi's what? We figure with the storyline 20 to 26-ish. The way they kept saying he's been here for 10 years.
It depends on if he got snapped.
Yeah, right.
But yeah, I think we could definitely see a big brother, little brother type sequence with them.
That is the combination I want to see the most, for sure.
I think maybe not Shang-Chi per se, but Katie and the Langs, I think, would have fun together.
Yes, that would be a lot of fun too.
Meaning Cassie.
Yeah, Cassie. Yeah, and Scott.
Well, yeah.
Is Katie young enough to be a young Avenger?
I'm thinking she could be. She could be. Why not?
I would like to see him hang out with Star-Lord.
Yeah,
that'd be very cool.
Yeah, that would be really good.
They would not be able to stop singing the entire time. And if there's anything I want, it's an MCU musical, so.
Yeah, I think Thor would be a lot of fun as well. I mean, just get that whole crazy group together.
Or Rocket, yeah.
Yeah.
I'm assuming we'll see him with Doctor Strange at some point, but I think that would be interesting because I feel like Shang-Chi can hold his own against Doctor Strange.
Especially this weird Doctor Strange that might be doing something weird in Spider-Man trailers. Cole, I think, had an interesting one earlier too with Yelena. I think Shang-Chi and Yelena could make for a really, really cool fight scene, at least. So that would be a lot of fun.
Yes, I was actually thinking that also. That would be an entertaining to no end watching me talk and Drax go, no, that can't happen. No, I wouldn't do that.
Yeah, that would be a lot of fun too. And yes, with these timelines, very possible that happens. I guess the only question there is who's playing Drax. But that's a different discussion.
Yeah.
Jonathan Majors. He's going to play every character by the end of it.
Oh, there you go. I want to see Shang-Chi and Kang the Conqueror. That's what I want to see.
Everyone's going to be with Kang the Conqueror. He's going to be in infinite timelines.
All right, we've already gone well over our time here. Anybody have any closing thoughts on this movie?
I'm excited to see it in the comfort of my own home again, and I look forward to what's ahead.
It's a shorter release window too. I believe it's only exclusive to theaters for 45 days. So
right, which
you could see it sooner.
People take that to mean that it's going to be on Disney Plus in 45 days. I'm not sure that that's true. It's probably
it'll be on home entertainment for 45 days.
Right, and then it'll probably be another 45 days or whatever.
This is one, though, that you need to see in the theaters. I mean, especially the fight at the end. I only saw it in digital. I want to see it in the 3D full because there's some pretty scenes in there that I think in 3D will come out very well.
Yeah, I totally agree. And I've been someone who's, just been, I'm fully on board to watch every movie at home, but I am glad I got to see this one in a theater. It does feel like that big. It's cinematically just beautiful. I mean, like you said, so many really, really great, very pretty scenes. So yeah, it was a fun experience to get back into a theater too. I mean, like we said at the top, it's been a while. But like Becca mentioned too,
for you.
Sure. It actually hadn't really been that long for me, but Free Guy wasn't that long ago. But I do miss just having it available. Like I would have loved to watch it again today before this discussion. So that's one thing that I am missing about it. Can't wait until I can watch it again. I'll probably end up in a theater again pretty soon, seeing it for a second time. It's that good.
It is that good.
If it would have gone out on Disney Plus also, then there would have been a lawsuit and we wouldn't have had Shang-Chi Part 2.
Yeah.
Oh wow! Oh, hang on. High praise here from
Doobie.
No,
don't give me attention to that. Like,
Wait, what? Oh, I thought there was more to that sentence, but I realized
really, the movie
just
Old. I would hope it's the only movie you've seen in theaters since Old. Old came out like 2 weeks ago. So
I mean, according to the old trailer, it's the best or the scariest beach movie since Jaws. So
I was intrigued by the premise, but then we watched the pitch meeting, and I was like, I don't need to see it. I definitely don't need to see it.
I'll have to go watch the pitch meeting because I don't want to have to sit through that movie, but I want to. It's spoiled.
So be sure to join us for Laughing Place Movie Club next week, where we discuss Old. Doobie will be running that one.
He'll be the only person on that one.
All right, no more closing thoughts here on Shang-Chi. We can wrap it up. Like I said, we are actually going to be back next week for Laughing Place Movie Club. We'll be talking about Dark Phoenix. We're taking a little bit of a step down from Shang-Chi. I'll be honest, though, I'm excited to revisit this movie and discuss it because these X-Men films have been a lot of fun to talk about. As for much sooner on the Laughing Place socials. What is tomorrow? Tuesday, right? So Becca, you're up tomorrow with Barely Necessities. So we have that. Jeremiah, are you live somewhere sometime soon?
Wednesday, in between comics, and more comics. I'll be at Epcot. We'll probably also be getting our first live stream coming out of the France expansion because I'll be there for my annual pass preview. So we're going to go right into that afterwards. And we may be searching for some ingredients for ratatouille itself.
Very cool. Now, are you cooking now? Is that a thing?
In a grocery store?
Scavenger hunt. Remember, Food and Wine still goes on for another 5.5 months. So,
grocery games with Jeremiah.
Supermarket sweep.
That sounds like a new LP show. That's something I would watch at least.
We're getting into domestics with Bath Time with Betty and Cooking with Jeremiah.
Right. I think the verdict is still out on Bath Time with Betty, but we'll have to revisit that.
I was a guest. I thought it was a good format.
I was a guest.
Yeah, both of us were.
I wasn't going to go this far ahead into the week, but since Jeremiah brought us to Wednesday, Marvel time on Wednesday. If you want more Marvel news, we'll talk about the latest in Marvel Comics as well as What If. And there's a new episode of Zacks of Life out today where Kyle and I discussed What If, and Doobie joined us for a draft of non-powered characters you'd want on your side in a fight. So
I have to hear that.
Non-powered asterisk.
Yeah, definitely an asterisk on that. Also, not to spoil it, but this is the first time ever where a guest called one of the hosts a butthead. So that is something to look forward to in the episode as well.
Multiple times.
Multiple times, yes.
What did you say? What did you say to get that?
Well, you'll have to listen to find out.
I love that Becca assumes it was Kyle that was called a butthead. Oh yes, I'm sorry. We went a full video without plugging Doobie's next project. So Disney Trivia Live tomorrow night.
It's all about old.
Right. Yes, there's an old quiz. So be sure to check that out. All right. I think we did it. Thank you everyone for watching. Thanks guys for humoring me on my nerd conversation. And we'll see you all real soon. Bye.
Bye.